tell me and I forget. Teach me, I may remember. Involve me, and I learn. I'm telling you that because in this lesson, I need you to grab a pen and paper. Old school, we're going old school. If you don't have the time to follow along with some writing utensils, then I'm going to ask that you pause the video, save it for later, and come back when you have time. If you do have time, let's go on and get started. So if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I went to college at the tender age of 35 years old. Didn't read music until I was about 35, 36, somewhere in that area. Got a degree in music at 41, and then went on to teach in schools for over a decade. This is one of the books that I kept where I would just write down things. You know, I quit my job at a call center so that I could go back to school. And I can remember being in the truck and writing things down. I don't know what's actually in this book, but you know, there's maybe some set lists, I was working on chord tones at the time, some rhythm stuff, working on walking back. You know, this is what I did. So you don't need manuscript paper for this, right? You just need something to write on. I got to get a blank page though. Okay. So, like I said, going old school. There's something about writing things down that makes it a lot more concrete. So this is the ground floor. What we're going to do is first define the musical alphabet. Okay. It may seem simple, but stick with me. This is important. Write this stuff down. Musical alphabet is A through G. Okay, and it's easier to do this than to get some fancy program and all that stuff. We're going old school. These are the natural notes. They represent the white keys on a piano. All right? So what we want to understand about this is that the musical alphabet is A through G, starts over at A again. Music is a lot of repeating patterns, right? So here's our starting point. Now, the next thing that we want to know from that is we want to know what an interval is. Now, I asked a new student recently to explain to me or teach me what they knew about intervals. And the answers that I got were rather interesting. Varying levels of right and wrong. We want to be able to say this as succinctly as possible, right? An interval is simply the space between two notes. That's it. It's the distance between one note and another. So, we're going to talk about the natural notes and the intervals between those notes. The interval, and I want you to write this down. So you should have written down your alphabet. And down below, we're going to write a W representing whole step, because the distance between A and B is a whole step. The distance between B and C is a half step. The distance between C and D, or the interval, is a whole step. The distance between D and E is a whole step. When I say distance, I also mean interval. Same thing. Imagine being a surveyor and you're looking, and in your line of work, you're saying, well, the fence is 3 feet away from the street or the sidewalk or whatever. Or you might say the interval between the fence and the sidewalk is 3 feet. Okay? The interval between E and F is a half step. And the interval between F and G is a whole step. Now, since these are the natural notes, this is the natural order of things, then that pattern is law. That pattern is not a theory. That pattern is law. That's what it is. Okay? What we also know is that no matter where we start, the order is going to be the same. So, for instance, if we start with C, our next note would be D, next note would be E, F, G, A, B, And of course, since we know that things repeat, we would go back to C again. The light bulb, I bet the light bulb just went off for you. Check this out. This is a C major scale. The mother of all harmony is the major scale. Every scale, every other thing, we can trace it back to the major scale, and we can use the major scale to figure out things. Okay, check this out. Since we know the natural order of notes, the natural notes, and we know that the intervals between those notes, and here's what we get, and you've probably heard this before, but if you write it down and you follow along, it's going to become more real to where you will not have to do this so much more, right? Or over and over and over again. It'll stick. The distance between C and D is a whole step. The distance between D and E is a whole step. E and F is a half step. The distance between F and G, or the interval, is a whole step. The distance between G and A is a whole step. Between A and B is a whole step. And between B and C is a half step. Don't say anything about my handwriting, all right? I know it's weird. So check this out. You may have seen this before. Whole, half, whole, half, right? What happens is we try to remember this without context, and it never sticks, right? So again, when I look at these notebooks that I have, this is only one of them that I found right off the bat. But when you write these things down, they stick. They start to stick. We don't need to remember that so that we can regurgitate it to someone else, okay? But this is what we need to remember. This is our major scale. We need this formula to be a major scale. We need that formula. What do we do with this pattern, this idea? Before we move on, and I'll show you something else, I do want to let you know something. This is the major scale. You see that there? Where that starts right there? That's the relative minor of C major. Just so you know. But let's get back to this and what we do with this pattern. Let's say I started with G. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Now I know that if I'm dealing with natural notes, that's what the order is going to be, right? We know that. But we want to make this into a major scale. What's the problem? Let's see. Between G and A is a whole step. Between A and B is a whole step. Between B and C is a half step. So far, so good. So far, so good. Between C and D is a whole step. Okay, so far, so good. Between D and E, whole step. So far, so good. Here we run into a problem right here. What is the problem? What could be the problem? Well, we know that between E and F is a half step, but we need that to be a whole step. We know that between F and G is a whole step, but we need that to be a half step. So what do? What we're going to do is we're going to raise that F to an F sharp. Now we've increased the distance between E and F. So now that's a whole step. And since we increased the distance there, we decreased the distance here. So guess what? Now that's a half step. Now we have the formula for a major scale. We have the formula now for a major scale. Now, check this out. I'm going to give you one more, and then I'm going to give you some homework to figure this out, to start figuring this out on your own, because you got formulas that you can use. This lesson is in a series of lessons that is over at the Groove School. It is grooveschool.co. You can meet me over there. You can get the rest of these lessons and more lessons like this, practical information that you can actually use, and you can get in on the founding members price that will never go up if you renew. Having said that, let's move on. Let's talk about this concept of the circle of fifths. What in the world? Well, there's the key of C. And then we did the key of G. Well, how many notes is G away from C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, good grief, it's a fifth away from C. G is a fifth away from C. So what note is 5 notes away from G? We got to start with G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doggone it, it's D. So let's start with D. Since we already have an F sharp, we're going to keep that F sharp. G, A, B, C, and D. All right. Let's test ourselves here. Between D, what did I do just now? What did I do just now? I made a mistake, right? Rushing, thinking about too many things at one time. What is the obvious mistake that I did? And I'm not going to edit this out. Then I got to start all over again and all that. But no, I'm human just like anybody else. And so there's the mistake. I caught the mistake, and let's fix it. So D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. We just fix it. That's it. We recognize, oops, I did it again. I made a mistake, and I fixed it. Okay, D to E, what do we have? Whole step. From E to F sharp, what do we have? We know now that we have a whole step. Between F sharp and G, we already know that's a half step. Between G and A, boom, whole step. Between A and B, whole step. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. What's the problem? Between B and C is a half step. We know that. And we know that we need that to be a whole step, and we know that we need the distance here to be a half step. So what do? We raise that C to C sharp. Now we have a whole step and a half step. Right? So here's now where we get into the concept of key signatures. Right? Key of C has no sharps, no flats. The key of G, though, has 1 sharp, and that is F sharp. The key of D has 2 sharps. It's F sharp and C sharp. All right? Now, here is your homework. Ready? Here's your homework. You are going to use the formula to figure out the rest of the sharp keys. Got it? That's going to be your homework. Your homework is to use the formula to figure out the rest of the sharp keys. How would you start? We're going in fifths, so what's the next? What would be the next key? 5 notes away from D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it? If you do this way, boy, I'm telling you, it is going to stick a lot more. My gut is telling me that a light bulb or 2 or 3 went off for you just now. So now you've been involved. You started writing things down, and you have a formula so that this stuff can start becoming more real to you. It's different from me just telling you, right? That's why I asked you to write it down. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments for sure, and I will try my best to answer them. But the deeper exploration is at the Groove School, and that is linked below. All right? I appreciate you watching the video. If this helped and you want to stay here, at the very least, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, a like, share with somebody who you think might find it useful. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. 2 fingers.